Hello and welcome to the Miko Bits show. If you're having trouble keeping up with Bitcoin, blockchain, and all of these crazy DeFi cryptocurrencies, then this may be your show. So tune in and relax, and hopefully you'll enjoy this. We have an exciting episode with Mounir from Paraswap. Paraswap.io, which of course, not to give anything away, is a exchange. So we're gonna enjoy learning about this exciting new DeFi product, and so let's just get right to it. But before we get into it, just want a quick disclaimer: this is not investment advice. So any assets mentioned in the show, you should seek a licensed professional for investment advice. And with that in mind, let's go right into it. So, Mounir, hi, great to have you on the show.
Hi, Miko. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, I love to start the show a little bit with some of the news. So, this morning, it was announced that Elon Musk's Tesla has invested 1.5 billion US dollars into Bitcoin. So, I obviously it's breaking news. So, just want to kind of get from you, some of your reactions and thoughts.
Yeah, huge news. As I mentioned before, I missed out on buying more. It felt like it's gonna explode in the price, and yeah, it was amazing, and also a big marketing or free marketing for crypto.
Yeah.
So literally every major media is talking about Bitcoin and crypto. So yeah, it's been really great to watch that happening. Especially if it's coming from Elon Musk. Like everyone literally listens to what and watches what Elon Musk is doing. So yeah, very happy so far to see this.
Yeah, happy Elon Musk Day. I mean, he is an incredibly dynamic figure, a very complex figure. He has a baby with a complicated name. Like he's definitely a pattern breaking entrepreneur, and it's really been incredibly dynamic. So what I'd love to do is get straight into the main topic, of course, which is you're a Paraswap, so you're the founder of Paraswap, and the thing that I'm really interested in is kind of how you describe the problem that you solve, obviously, right? Because the way that a founder describes a problem is actually pretty subtle and intriguing. So I'd love to hear how you describe it.
Yeah, so it comes down to defining what's happening today and what's going to happen tomorrow. So if we look at DeFi today or trading in DeFi today, it's a bit hard. The liquidity is very fragmented. So as a user who wants to sell or buy a crypto based on Ethereum right now, well, they have the choice between almost 50 exchanges. So which one should they choose? Which one should they avoid in order not to get wrecked? This is where an aggregator makes sense, like Paraswap. But that's solving the problems of today of improving liquidity and improving the user experience on trading on chain. But the long-term vision of Paraswap and why we're doing this is we think that trading will happen on blockchains in the future and will happen in multiple blockchains. And we think that real-world assets will be also traded on blockchains. And we think this is where an aggregator will make more sense. People will not be seeking like this small exchange that's gonna help them swap Tesla shares for a Bitcoin or whatever else. They will be trading on aggregators, and they will be trading on the platform that will give them the best prices and the best execution. And this is what we see Paraswap solving in the future. This will happen within a few years, obviously, and we are focused on the problems of today. But yeah, this is our long-term vision, and this is how we see a product like Paraswap or an aggregator performing in the crypto ecosystem or in the trading, I would say, at a more high level in the next coming years.
Yeah, that's obviously, I love this pitch because it's very explainable, right? In the sense that, there's a lot of people that have to use a lot of math to explain ideas. To me, your ideas are very clear, and that's beautiful. And, from my side, I like, so there's a famous Austrian economist who describes basically, it's Mises, and he basically says that all economic activity flows from dissatisfaction, right? And so when we talk about a problem that we're solving, the problem is an economic problem. So there's an infinite number of problems. Like you can solve math problems, there's any kind of number of problems, but the economic problems are the ones that flow from dissatisfaction. Right. And so I think you're talking about trading. I think trading absolutely is filled with dissatisfaction. This morning maybe some satisfaction, but I would say that, going towards like the, sort of how is it going, right? There's a beautiful meme of how it started and how it's going. Like, how's it going? This segment is the number segment, so we'd love to understand kind of any of the numbers, traction, users, volumes, whatever that's associated with Paraswap.
Yeah, we've seen an interesting growth, especially last month. We did actually a third of our total volume only last month, which is great. So like 100 millions. It's still small compared to others, but compared to us, it's really, really good. And we've seen this month playing even better. So we expect it to be more. We saw growth of user base. Before, what's happened is that we have a small set of users making a lot of volume. So it's typically whales and
Yes.
DeFi whales and very heavy DeFi users. Right now, we started to see people coming either from completely outside. It's like their first day in crypto.
Wow.
They will go to DeFi and they will go to DEXs, and that we've seen a lot recently.
Wow.
Or people coming from centralized exchanges, like they are used to Binance, Coinbase, and so on. And they say, hey, well, maybe if we use a DEX, we will find out better prices or tokens that are not present in centralized exchanges. And they came and they found out, hey, I can just go to Uniswap, but if I go to Paraswap, I will have even better prices and better experience. So that's something we started to see a lot. So we have like 10x more users compared to last 2-3 months.
That's
So
fantastic,
yeah.
and it's wonderful to see this support. So, what is your secret or competitive differentiation, or what is your unfair advantage? Obviously, there are aggregators like 1inch. Just full disclosure, my fund is invested in 1inch, but it shouldn't bias this conversation. And people should always remain very open to new ideas and new companies as I am to you. So like tell me how you differentiate. Like how do you? I know them pretty well, but like would love to understand your approach to DEX aggregation and how you make a different experience.
Yeah, so I would say the products in the current system, like the current market, sorry, are competitors. Like they are doing
Yes.
something that is very similar. So the difference will be mainly on prices. One is going to give better prices than the other, or one is going to be cheaper in gas than the other. So it's a race who's going to be bringing the best algorithm. So that's how we spend almost most of the time on each day on how can we tune up the algorithms, come up with new formulas. We have, for instance, a physics professor helping us on this. We have a guy who is really, really good in algorithms, who is one of our core developers. So yeah, it's a lot of effort on building this up and making it better. But that's the current market. But how we see the future is a much, much bigger market where it will fit in people. Like if you see the parallel in the travel industry, there is Expedia, Booking.com, Kayak, and others. And each one may be outperforming others in certain user segments or certain category. This is where we see the market going. And since DeFi moves really fast, so now we opened up new categories in a Paraswap. One of them is layer 2. So we are going to build in layer 2. And that's something differentiating already from others. So it will be ZK Sync in the beginning, in Starkware later, and maybe other L2s. And that's solving a problem not for us, like not for our direct users, but for API users. So for guys like Argent Wallets, MetaMask, and all of those who integrated our API are going to give a Coinbase-like experience to their users. So they will have to push a button and make a trade and not have to pay $100 for a trade. And that's a big problem we're going to solve. And that's also thanks to something that it's also differentiating us from others. It's called Paraswap Pool. And that's an RFQ system, also an order book system, where we have behind it, we have professional market makers who are filling trades for users. Yeah, and it's an RFQ system or order book, and that's something unique in Paraswap. So we built a whole product around this, and we're gonna have also new features that's going to show up in 2-3 months, where this is unique because it's like ours. We have control over it, but that's also great because we can have the same market makers deployed on any layer two. So tomorrow we want to go into like a new fancy layer two. We can just ask those market makers, hey guys, keep the same API, just you're gonna settle on a different blockchain or different layer two. And we can bring in a lot of users, a lot of volume, because we have that or that wallet asking for this. Because their users are suffering from gas. So that's, I would say, something differentiating in Paraswap is that we have this ability to deploy into any layer two within weeks. That's what I can say.
I'm very happy this year with how the L2 and performance scalability solutions are kind of informing the market. Recently, we saw Kane Warwick Synthetics actually do a very exciting project with with Optimism, and with Jing from Optimism and her team. They built a beautiful layer 2 scalability for Ethereum. And we're increasingly seeing kind of alternative solutions. We're seeing bridging solutions. We had Anatoly from Solana come on. Obviously, they have their Serum exchange methodology supported by FTX. So we're increasingly seeing more. This year to me is the year of Ethereum scalability, but not as direct, right? Not in terms of just Ethereum 2 kind of magically appearing. It's not the case, but I think we are seeing layer 2, and the market is pushing, and the pressure is being alleviated largely. So I'd love to kind of understand a little bit about your methodology, and I would say that another itch I'd like to scratch is to really understand more about your order book. But let's start first with your L2. So, can you tell me a little bit of detail about kind of your L2 provider and methodology?
So yeah, we are mostly believers in ZK rollups instead of optimistic rollups.
Yeah.
But obviously, as we know,
and why is that?
Because ZK rollups rely more on mathematical proofs instead of game theory. That's, I would say, in a nutshell, why this one is better than that one. But also, in a rational, business sense, we follow, as an aggregator, we follow the liquidity and the markets. So if tomorrow we see enough liquidity on Optimism, we're going to be there. It's a rational decision, of course. And also, as an aggregator, we should be on multiple layer twos. We cannot be on only one, but that's the definition of an aggregator. That's a normal thing. So with ZK Sync, we're working with Argents. We share this mindset of, that's not a mindset, like this conviction, with ZK rollups. And ZK Sync has been a very good fit for us. It's open source. They are building a blockchain on their ZK Sync network. So we think that it's a great fit. We're gonna start in multiple steps using Paraswap pool in the beginning. We may also use Starkware, as I said. They're gonna launch something called Starknets, which is the same, similar to ZK Sync, but that's gonna happen in Q4, I would say, if not later. That's the reasoning behind it, is which one is the most secure, which one is demanded by clients that they're going to use it from day one. And we have also other wallets interested in this. But yeah, I'm telling you this, maybe in 3 months, I will tell you, hey, we're going to also build on Optimism because Uniswap and Synthetics are there. And there are 3 other DEXs that's going to be building there. It's a bit hard to manage 2 L2s. In this case, it will be 3 Ls, like L1 plus 2 L2s.
Yep.
To manage them, it creates a lot of complexity. And also, as you mentioned, there are interrupt issues, like how would you go from one L2 to the other?
Yes.
That will be a problem that you're going to have to deal with. We are looking into some project like Connect the network, that are creating this bridge. It's still, I would say, in very early stages. They allow only exits, quick exits, or from one L2 to the other, but none of those bridges will allow us to do a cross L2s aggregation. Like we cannot do, say, there is a Uniswap on Optimism, and a balancer on zk sync, we cannot like do a split order between
Is
both
there so there
in an
you're
atomic way.
so you're saying that there's no project that's currently focused on solving the problem of kind of like single interface to multiple L2?
Yeah, it's a very hard problem.
That
What
feels like a
I
great possible solution if someone were
Yeah,
to build it.
we really wish someone is gonna work on that because we can do it. I mean, not now, of course, but if nobody, we're gonna step in as an initiative. But we really wish someone, because I think there is a huge opportunity on building that kind of infrastructure. It's gonna be needed, yeah, very soon,
If
within the next
if
12
you if
months.
anyone in the audience knows about such a project, single developer interface, multiple L2s, I'm happy to fund such a solution, from Gumi Crypto's capital. So, we're excited about the idea and we think it's needed. So, I think one of the things that's happening now is exactly the developer situation you're describing, right? Which is that in a way, like it's very hard to tell who's going to win, and so you kind of have to place some bets. And, I think in a bit like roulette, you have to place maybe a couple different bets just to kind of like get a spread, So I think that's discomfort, that's an economic discomfort and something someone should solve. So, I think that's great. I do see a lot of big players kind of making big bets, FTX bet on Solana and Kane bet on Optimism. And, so people are making big bets, but like, you can, maybe hedge a little bit if you're not, one of these players, because obviously, you're not in the economic business of L2. You're just trying to solve it on behalf of your users. So, someone else should probably try to solve that problem. So tell me a little bit about sort of, just the order book. So, I just want to kind of get a little bit self-indulgent, because, I'm friends with Alex from IDEX and, obviously we all saw the SEC settlement, of Zach Cobain, around, or Coburn, I think it was, around Ether Delta, right? So, I'd love to kind of understand more about kind of how you think about something like order book and how an order book can be decentralized if possible.
So yeah, the issue with Ether Delta, it was that they were running a matching engine in a centralized way. They were like acting as a money transmitter. Like they fit in exactly into the money transmitter regulations, which is, I mean, yeah.
Just to make a slight, adjustment there. Like the issue that was settled on was the that they were operating an unlicensed exchange. Right. And obviously, like if you look at an AMM or something like that, it doesn't match Alice and Bob really. Right. It's so, it's a bunch of the LPs are each dealing out of their own inventory. Right. So it's a little bit different than a pure order book. But I would love to understand your perspective on like how do you solve that?
So first of all, the other peer is a professional. It's not a Alice and Bob. Those are professional market makers that are operating their own reserves. Unlike an Ether Delta or any exchange like a Binance or any order book exchange, where two traders who come to the platform are going to trade with each other, and the platform will act as a centralized authority that's going to match one over the other. That's like how order book exchanges work in a nutshell. But here it's different. The order book is not public. Each market maker, they have their own order book of their orders. It's a bit similar to what Kyber are doing on chain. It's an off-chain variation of the Kyber system. So if you look at Kyber, any professional market maker, they can come in there. They can either use an AMM where it's gonna look like a Uniswap at the end, or they can have an order book where they can set their prices and say, for instance, I'm selling ETH from 1 ETH to 10 ETH at that price, from 10 to 100 at that price, and so on. So we have a similar system. It's just that it's off-chain, not on-chain. The order book that we're operating, it's not an order book where anyone can post orders and others will post like competing orders, and we're gonna match those. That we agree, it's a bit dangerous to operate today.
Yeah.
In decentralizing this, we thought about it. We have some thoughts on technically how this can be solved. It's a very hard problem to do in a decentralized way. So some projects are also working about it. There's the 0x mesh as well, but it's very inefficient. Nobody has come up with a solution yet, but we have some ideas that we may maybe start evaluating in the next few months.
You should check out the Vega protocol white paper. It's actually pretty
Yeah.
interesting about it. There's they deal with it in the context of like sort of mathematical ordering of these orders, right? So the ordering becomes really interesting, because obviously, if you look at something like Bitcoin, it's really, you could look at Bitcoin as a time stamping generator, right? Because it's, in the bigger picture, it's a history recording device, right? And so because of that, it has to record the truth of a history, right? And if you're actually able to order time flow in a distributed way, if you have a canonical time flow, then you can see who ordered first, right? So so to me, like, it's interesting. Like, I talked about this with Sam Bankman-Fried from Alameda, and his comment around the Solana engine was basically, if you're fast enough, you can reduce MEV, the miner extractable value, right? Which I think it's kind of a punt, like it's a punt, but like, it's a fair statement. It's a little bit like trying to outrun a bear. You just outrun, you just run faster than the guy next to you, and I feel like, to me, it's not I think if you like ZK roll up over optimistic, then I don't think you'd like that answer either. I mean, I think it sounds like you're more of a mathematics oriented person, and I think there's a certain amount of pragmatism in DeFi. I really appreciate, though, that you did say that you're pragmatic business people first, right? So, I think that's what I heard from you. But I think what I like is that you have a very strong base. Like, that you're like, well, when we have a choice, we come back to mathematical principles of strong proofs and on chain, right? Which is great. And I also like that you said, okay, we looked at order book, but the order book component is not online as a function of MEV / front running, right? So I think you've got very solid answers. I really appreciate your approach to the space. So any other comments on order book?
Yeah, I would say we have some ideas around that looks a little bit like how blockchains work with the incentives and slashing mechanisms.
Yep.
But it's still in very early stages. And yeah, I cannot say more because it's like in a very, I don't know the word in English, but it's in a very infant stage. We can be very wrong. We can be very right. Maybe we can have like the Steve Jobs, the Steve Jobs idea around this. But yeah, we thought about something like this. If anyone will work on it, we'll be very happy to use it anyways. But yeah, it's around how blockchains function and where you can have many operators filling trades, and how can you create sufficient incentives for these folks, and also sufficient slashing mechanisms where you will punish bad actors. The idea behind it in our case is that we are an aggregator, so we can beat the markets right now. I mean, the point of view in Paraswap will be you are looking to get a price that is better than the markets. If Paraswap can do it right now, it can do it in the future. But who's gonna trigger this filling of that order? If it's us, we fall down into a matching engine, like the case we mentioned.
Yep.
If a network is gonna do it, the question is who's gonna do it first. We should not have a collision of two operators filling the same trade. And this is where it start getting interesting, and where some game theory can be involved, and some mathematics maybe as well. And yeah, I'm happy to look into Vega. I think I haven't looked deep enough to understand how
it's very beautiful and elegant. Obviously, full disclosure, my fund is invested in Vega, but I personally really love their ideas, so I that's why. And obviously I've studied them very heavily, so that's why I bring that up. But I think it's a hard problem. It's a very interesting problem. So I think obviously your approach is contemporaneous with these other approaches. So, you gave a really beautiful segue to, a segment that I call the big idea, right? Which is, what is kind of the Steve Jobsian big idea, and how do you see this? A big being kind of a multi-decade story arc, and, how do you see this playing out? What's your big idea?
Well, I don't have something like outside of this field, of this ecosystem right now. That's what's taking my mind for the last, I think, 3-4 years. Thinking only about, like, my mind is only crypto, DeFi, all the time.
Yeah.
So it comes down to what I said first. I think that finance will run on blockchain. That's like inevitable. That's something that no matter what people will say, or like those private blockchains, those authority-based blockchain. I think that the world would run on public blockchains. It seems like a certainty, and I could be very wrong on this. But we started to see a lot of solid signs that people started to believe in public blockchains and started to understand also that crypto and blockchains are two things that go together. There is like no blockchain, no crypto. And I think those are great signs that this is going to happen. I don't know when, but within the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see it's like the internet effects, where we went from small intranets to a big network, a big open network called internet. And I think that's public blockchains are the future.
I think you're in great company. Olaf Carlson Wee from Polychain at the San Francisco Blockchain Week was basically saying that he really doesn't think private permissioned blockchains are a thing, and I think that it's a very fair statement, right? Because the thing that's so fascinating is everybody in blockchains talking about, performance, layer 2 scalability, how slow, and, it's not like what I want. The thing that's fascinating to me is if you look at the slider of trust, right? Like if you can trust one party, right? If you go from 0 parties, I trust 0 parties, to I trust one party, I can give you a billion TPS, right? I can give you everything if you can just trust one party, right? Because that party will just run a Oracle database sitting on a huge supercomputer with exabytes of RAM, and we will give you performance, like you will give you bananas transactional performance, right? So, and that's one party, right? So like going from 0 parties trust to one party trust is everything. So like it just feels like, I guess what I'm trying to express is like, you're spot on to me. Like, I really feel like public blockchain, and you're seeing that with, obviously we mentioned the Elon Musk announcement, we're seeing Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy, and like, people are like increasingly like, yeah, I get it. Like, this is where the trust game is going, right? Because that's the disruption. Right. It's a 0 to 1 disruption, which is like, hey, guess what? You can't trust institutions, so why should we go like in this weird murky middle? So public blockchain, I mean, to me, that is a absolutely gigantic idea. So like, let's run with that. So coming out to the inspirational section, like, what are your sources of inspiration? What, and especially things now, like, especially like, what are you geeking out on now? What are the things that get your blood moving?
Yeah, I think, but that's not something you think about it too much when you're building a new product. You just go for it and wake up every day and go for the next thing to be done and get things done all the time. But I think if I look at more into myself, why I'm doing this.
Yep.
I think I'm a person that's also always seek fairness. Like to have fairness in whatever I'm doing, like whatever interaction I have with people, whatever things I use in a day-to-day basis. And I think crypto and DeFi, they bring this fairness. That's like something we don't need to teach the audience. Everyone is aware about this. But I think this is what's pushing me to work into DeFi, in crypto, is that we are finally building a system that's like natively has fairness into it. So I think that's something that motivates me and makes me work and go all in with crypto.
I love what you're saying. I'm personally super invested in what you're saying. If you go to Miko.com, what you're going to see are the words, open source financial infrastructure will make the world more consensual, fair, just, inclusive, transparent, and innovative, right? And why is that, right? And it's because open source software is free software, right? And it means that it lowers the cost of innovation, right? So to me, this idea of being treated fairly is so intrinsic to all layers, right? Even the layer 1, it's intrinsic, right? Where if you don't like how you're being treated, like fork it. Like create your own tribe, and that's where consent comes from, right? Which is, you're using it, your consent to using it, and you consent to using it exactly how it is. And the reason you consent to that is because you like it and it's serving you, right? As soon as it stops serving you, there's zero barriers to going anywhere with it. You can just fork it yourself and be like, I'm going to go forget Bitcoin, it's Miko coin, we're all going to join Miko coin. It's like, I have zero users, but like, and it won't be worth anything. But like, my point is you're free. You're like, so I love the fairness. Fairness is incredible. Obviously the blockchain is the ultimate kind of source of like fairness. So like, people can complain, but it's like, there's the record, what do you want to say? So exactly, I love that. I love that. And having that be a deeper source of energy, it's such a it's so foundational. It's such a I don't know. I love it. It's very invigorating and important. It's so important for the space.
Something also I love with crypto is freedom, because when I transfer money from one bank account to the other to pay for bills and so on, since in crypto companies with banks, it's not, they're not best friends, and so each time I'm wondering whether our bank accounts will be closed, will be whatever would happen. But it's impressive with crypto how confident I am when taking the ledger and just pushing a button. I don't even have to think about it. It just happens, and you feel like in control of your funds. Like you feel like a sovereign individual that can do whatever is best for you, for your organization, and for your team, and so on. But with the bank, you're like at the mercy of a big organization, of a big system that you just cannot control. And that's something I found very interesting.
Yeah, I think the word sovereign does appear, and it's astonishing because when you go all the way back to sovereign, right, the idea of sovereign embeds the word of reign, R-E-I-N, right, which is like the rulership of a king or a queen, right? And so like the idea, and like the idea of sovereignty is absolutely kind of core. And I think it's a beautiful reflection, because if you think about like individual sovereignty, it's embedded deeply into the consensus layer of the Bitcoin blockchain. So, and obviously when I say Bitcoin, I'm really talking about kind of an exemplar of the open source principles that are reflected in Ethereum and reflected in, everything, right? All of the cryptographic assets that are meaningful are kind of A, open source, and B, derived in some fashion from, like Vitalik Buterin was a writer for the Bitcoin magazine, before doing Ethereum. So like, we all owe a debt of gratitude to Satoshi Nakamoto, wherever you are, but I think that it's incredible the way that I think you're reasoning about this stuff. So tell us a little bit about any kind of like if you could give out awards, a Paraswap award, like, do you have any shout outs, anyone who you would recognize, anyone who you appreciate, admire, respect, or any folks along the way that have been great?
Well, I think we would never be, where we are right now without support of the community. It was impressive how people were very supportive, and since day one, we were like literally outsiders, with zero connection to everyone, and started building those connections over time. And how easy was it to reach anyone in the ecosystem by just like, they were all a telegram away or a message away in Telegram to reach out to them. So I can give shout out to all the ecosystem. Literally everyone, or like most of the people active in the ecosystem, were helping us by either feedback. I was like literally bugging some people. Hey, that's a new feature. Can you give me feedback?
Any specific examples though, just to kind of call them out?
Well, you have Stani, for instance, of AAVE.
Yes.
It was very, very helpful to us a lot. You have Marwan, founder of Unslashed. It's a new insurance protocol. You have Pascal from Jarvis Network. He's also in the French community.
Wonderful.
Yes, I can. I try not to give specifics because I may miss some people and they can get angry at me. But yeah, a lot of people were very helpful for us. It was really impressive. Yeah.
It's wonderful, and that's such a beautiful spirit of camaraderie. We're all kind of brothers and sisters in this DeFi movement. So I think that kind of open outreach and help is wonderful. And we've heard actually Stani's name several times.
He's great.
He's been on the show, and he's very generous with his time. And so he's tremendous. And there's obviously the others that you mentioned as well. So. Yeah, what a wonderful and open space it's been. So tell me a bit about, whether, like, this is the segment I call Pocket Picks, right? So without kind of dispensing any investment advice at all, of course, are there any small projects that you think, are underappreciated, exciting, and why? Like, so I'd love to hear from you there.
Yeah, so I like Melon. It's now rebranded to Enzyme. And recently we were looking at subsidizing gas for our users given the prices. And we were going for some big established projects, and which is okay. We may do it in the future. But Melon or Enzyme integrated our API. We know Mounir, the founder, very well. And I look at the project, it's really amazing. For me, it's the future of, also part of the future of trading on chain. And I think it's still underused as it is. So I would really put a bet, personal, of course, not advice for other people.
Yes.
On Melon. It's really cool. I like Unslash, the insurance protocol. It's like Nexus Mutual with a different model, different mechanics. It's really good. I'm biased, maybe AAVE. I love AAVE, so
yeah, me too.
I'm all in into AAVE. That's also a project I love.
It's very well appreciated, though.
Yeah, it's really impressive. Yeah. I mean, if you ask me of the top 3 right now, those are the 3 that can come in like right away to my head.
It's funny in English, actually, the word appreciated applies to both the emotion as well as the price value, right? So you can say that AAVE is very appreciated. My original, when I said the sentence, I really meant that I really think they're great, but I think the price is also appreciated, and maybe it will more. It's impossible to say, but I would say that, like, those are great. I'm excited to hear about some of these smaller projects. It gives me both fodder for the show as well as some exciting things to study. So I think obviously more white papers to read, and really the quest for getting to the forefront of the space. So thank you for that. And as a kind of prodigious user and integrator of projects, like, you have a beautiful seat from which to see up and coming projects and to really deeply understand whether it makes sense for you or not. So that's a great lens. So so I guess the last thing I wanted to kind of do is talk about your roadmap. So this is kind of like, I jokingly call this the leaking alpha segment. It's basically what's coming up and when. What's the next big thing that you want to announce, or do you have anything on the roadmap that people should watch for?
So we have 2. I'm going to talk only about one. The second one will announce in a few weeks. But the first one is layer 2. Is definitely something very important for us. It's solving concrete problems for our clients, all the wallets typically, maybe other dApps as well. And that's something we're going to do in 2 stages. The first one will be a simple one. It's going to come up in 2 months. I'm trying not to give deadlines so that I can I can always hold them. But yes, we are in an advanced phase where we can start offering at least trading on big pairs like ETH, USDT, USDC, and so on. That should happen in production within the next 2-3 months maximum, if not before. That will be the first iteration with ZK Sync. Later, we will see if we continue like improving this L2 integration or going for another L2. That we're gonna see, but bottom line, L2 is one of the top priorities of this year.
Wow, exciting. And it sounds like you've got another one that you're not ready to come talk about, but when you are ready, come on back to the show. We'd love to dig in with you. It's been absolutely fascinating and very juicy. I love all the details on the perspectives, on the order books, on the kind of detailed stuff about ZK rollups. And, so to me, like, this has been really chock full of like incredible depth and insight. So really, really, really appreciate it. Any kind of closing things we haven't covered, interesting topics you want to unpack, or, should we leave it like that?
Well, I still think personally that we are in a starting point of the new bull markets. But I don't know what I would be happy to know also what you think about it. But I feel like we are still in like February to March 2017, or maybe if not before. So that's something I'm still convinced on. Maybe if you can share what you think would be
Yeah, I
great.
mean, I would say this, right, which is there's two major factors, right? One major factor is the total market capitalization of the entire cryptographic asset space. Obviously, we're well north of $1 trillion at this juncture, so it does, to me, it
Yeah.
feels like there is possible headroom there. Obviously, not investment advice. The second component actually becomes kind of what used to be called in 2017 the Ethereum flippening, right? And the question becomes, how does Bitcoin dominance play? So I think in historical terms, obviously Ether is approaching, and has exceeded its all-time highs. But I think relative to Bitcoin, the percentages haven't been there. So, we may see kind of a potential shift. We're obviously seeing the rise of kind of, I would say, not Bitcoin killers, or I mean Ethereum killers, but we're seeing Ethereum helpers. So we're seeing kind of the rise of the Polkadot ecosystem, so we're seeing kind of increased challengers, things that are potentially now integrated into that Ethereum ecosystem. So, I think Ethereum is obviously incredibly strong and powerful. So I would say that from a perspective of DeFi bullishness, I think that, DeFi, the segment itself, obviously is very strong. We're seeing incredible performance from the blue chips. But, as far as the global macro, like, that is very hard to predict. I did not predict Elon Musk making this announcement. I thought for sure it would only be about Dogecoin and not about Bitcoin. So, I'm joking. But I guess I would say that, like, in a way, one of the things I like to say is that there's John Maynard Keynes, the economist who is maligned in Bitcoin in favor of Austrians, has really said that he created the bull and the bear, these animal spirits, right? And I like to say that the third animal spirit, and it's a hat tip to Eric Voorhees and Roger Ver, who kind of introduced the honey badger. But I believe that the third animal spirit in the economy is the honey badger. And the honey badger, being representing Bitcoin and all cryptographic assets, is a contrarian animal. It's an animal that doesn't charge forward. It doesn't retreat and hide and hibernate. It actually does whatever the hell it wants to do. And in a way, it sort of wins by being contrarian, by doing what it is you don't think it's going to do. So, because of that, I definitely avoid investment advice because, if you really gain conviction about things like asset price, I think that's going to probably cause you to be wrecked because it's intentionally doing what you don't want or expect, right? So I think that's my feeling is that if you think about the honey badger animal spirit, we're seeing that reflected in price action of things like GameStop, and we're seeing that reflected in a variety of different price actions, which is, for example, if you look at all the people shorting GameStop, right, like, they're just comfortably predicting that this thing that doesn't make sense is going to tank. And it's like, okay, it may tank, but when? Like, when will it tank, right? And it's like, it won't tank on your schedule. We're going to make it tank on our schedule, and you guys are going to get, like, wrecked, right? So that's the honey badger. It's aggressive. It's very, it's very contrarian. So I would say that from the perspective of price action, the event horizon is near. It's very, very difficult to predict, but as far as, like, are we 10 to 100x more powerful as open source community than we were in 2017, we are at least 100, if not 1,000x more powerful than we were in 2017. We have shipped more software. Like, the things people are investing in are more real. The layer 2 solutions are coming like hammer and tongs. So, like, are we stronger? We are 1,000 times stronger. So, like, are the fundamentals there? The fundamentals are there, right? But that doesn't necessarily reflect in price action. So let's see how it plays out.
But I sometimes prefer being on a bear market than a bull market because it's the best opportunity to build
Yes.
and to avoid any kind of noise. And that's what we saw a year ago in 2019, in like Q3, Q4 2019. There was like literally no noise. Everyone was talking only about building, about software.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's still great right now, but yeah, all this noise wasn't there. It was the quality of the interactions were really, really good. It's still great right now. We have more people, we onboarded more people into DeFi, more builders. But yeah, I mean, for me, if tomorrow, if a bear market happens, it will be, I will be more than happy, because I know we will be more focused on building new things instead of,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, and you're definitely the kind of entrepreneur that we want to feature on this show, because the thing that happens is that things can get very frothy, and if you really like, when you answer a question like, well, why are you here and why are you doing this stuff, and you answer it with stuff like fairness, right? It definitely, there's certain markets in which the answer is, I want to get rich really, really fast, right? And it's sort of like, okay, like Lambos, okay, like, but like, that feels a little bit nihilistic to me, and I think that the thing that really happens is that when you look at the biggest tech companies in the world, they were built during a downturn, right? So if you look at Amazon and Facebook and Apple and Google, obviously Apple's a long-lived company, so it's been through several downturns and several upturns, but like the biggest buildings happen in this kind of deep downturns where talent is widely available. Like there's so much opportunity to really hunker down and build something tremendous. So, I think that's a great thing. And that's the reason why I always ask people for their inspiration, because, what is it that gets people through these most difficult times? It has to be passion, inspiration, dedication, and there has to be something deep. Otherwise, if it's I really want to get rich as quick as possible, then you're going to leave this and go do GameStop, or you're going to do something else, right? Because it's like, oh, well, I'm not getting rich quick off of this, it's like, and I think that's not what this is about anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, good. That's a really beautiful note. And, let's, you're welcome to come back anytime, especially as you start to really unpack this next announcement. We're obviously excited about the L2. That is a tremendous achievement. It's technically difficult, obviously for them, but also for you. And, I think you're navigating it beautifully. Again, if anyone out there knows about a layer 2 integrator solution, I'm absolutely happy to support such a effort financially. And, we're definitely out looking for, great projects. So thanks so much, Mounir. Really, an honor having you on the show, and look forward to watching your great success.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Was really, I really enjoyed it.
Thanks so much.